Hello, my name is Ari Waldman. I'm a person who stutters. This is Friday, October 2nd, 2020, the 14th day of the Jewish month of Tishre, right before Sukkot. Don't worry, I'm about to get ready. Daily Tanya, Igeret HaKodesh, end of epistle 21, Friday, 14th of Tishrei, 5781, October 2nd, 2020. The reason given until this point for dividing one's annual pledges into weekly or at least monthly payments was the quality of alacrity in performing a mitzvah. The Alter Rebbe now adds two further reasons for not deferring frequent payments to one consolidated contribution at the end of the year. A. Every single act of tzedakah refines the soul of the donor. B. Every single act of tzedakah brings about the supernal union in the sefirot and par tsufin. Ach gam zot matzanu ra'inu ba'avodat hatzdaka ma'ala pritat gedola v'nifla'a eich aruch ela. Indeed, in the service of charity, we have also found and noted a particularly great and incomparably wondrous virtue. As explained above in Igeret HaKodesh, Epistle 12, the act of charity, Maaseh HaTzedakah, remains steadily within the conventional limits set by one's natural inclination. In the case of the service of charity, Avodat HaTzedakah, by contrast, the individual serves God, toiling, refining himself, and excelling himself until he is able to be charitable in a manner that leaps above and beyond his custom and nature. The Alter Rebbe also now teaches that even if the amount one gives is not out of the ordinary, nevertheless, if it is given with a great frequency, this too qualifies as divine service. Liot Maaseh HaTzedakah nasit b'pamim rabot. When the act of charity is performed numerous times, the Alter Rebbe is referring here not to one's annual pledge, but to the actual giving of numerous increments which add up to its total amount. V'chol hamarba hare ze meshubach. And whoever does so frequently is praiseworthy. V'lo b'pam achat bevat achat gam ki hasach ha'kola. Echad hu. Rather than at one time and all at once, even when the total sum is the same, even then it is far preferable to give the same amount over a larger period on numerous occasions. Kamo shekatav Rambam, Zichrono Livracha, Beferish, Ha'amishane, Shishanu, Chachamim, Zichrono Livracha, Hakol, Lefi, Rov, Hamaseh. As Rabbi Moses Maimonides, a blessed memory, wrote in his commentary on the following Mishnah, taught by the sages, a blessed memory, and everything is judged according to the multiplicity of action, as opposed to the stature of the deed. On this Mishnah, the Rambam explains that though a one-time donation of, say, 1,000 gulden is truly praiseworthy, the trait of benevolence does not thereby become embedded within the donor's psyche to the same extent as it would if he would give these same 1,000 coins one at a time. V'hinei melamed ki Rambam Zichrono Livracha biar heitev tamo v'nikni moko kedei lezachach hanefesh al yedei raboy hamaseh. Now, apart from the underlying reason for this, that Rav Moshe Maimonides, a blessed memory, clearly explained, viz., in order to refine the soul by means of the multiplicity of action, hine mikare milo diber hakatuv pulat tzedakah l'chayim. An explicit verse in Scripture states that the effect of tzedakah is for life. In his notes, and emendations at the conclusion of the Hebrew edition of Tanya, the Rebbe refers the reader to the following two verses. In Mishlei 10:16, we find Pe'ulot Tzadik L'chaim, the effect of a tzaddik is for life, and in Mishnah 11:11, we find Kain Tzedakah L'chaim, so is tzedakah for life. Accordingly, the Rebbe notes that the Alter Rebbe's citation of the three words Pu'ulat Tzedakah L'chaim, the effect of tzedakah is for life, as part of an explicit verse, is problematic. Seemingly, this difficulty could be resolved by interpreting thus, since the effect of a tzaddik is tzedakah in the spirit of the verse. God is a tzaddik, he loves acts of tzedakah. The verse which states that the effect of a tzaddik is for life, in fact seeks to imply that the effect of a tzaddik, viz. Tzedakah, is for life. From the comment of the Rebbe, however, it is apparent that this interpretation is unsatisfactory, for surely an explicit verse should be explicit, without resort to interpretation. Dahainu shepu'ulata visgulata lahamshich chayim elyonim michai hachayim chaye hachayim ein sof baruch hu. This means the effect and mystical consequences of tzedakah is to elicit and draw down spiritual supernal life from the fountainhead of life, literally from the life of life, the blessed Ein Sof le'eretz hachayim, to the land of life, i.e., to Malchut of Atzilut. The Sephira of Malchut in the world of Atzilut is known as the land of life, because relative to the more heavenly levels, it is the lowest level within the world. It is known as the land of life because it provides life to all the created beings of the three lower worlds of Beria, Yetzira, and Asiya. The effect of tzedakah then is to draw down life-giving divine energy into the recipient or feminine attribute called Malchut of Atzilut. The source of life, the fountainhead of life, is called Za, which is the last level within the worlds that are Ein Sof or infinite. The name Za is an acronym of the initials Zayin Aleph of Zir Anpin, i.e., the bracket of 6 masculine midot or emotive attributes of Atzilut. This yichud of masculine and feminine midot is the supernal union spoken of below. Haya Shchinat Oznenu She'elaya Namar V'ata Mechaya Et Kulam. The land of life, i.e., Malchut of Atzilut, is the Shechina which gives us strength, i.e., the divine presence that animates and fortifies created beings, of which it is said, and you animate that all. The word Ata, you, alludes to the Sephira of Malchut, the source of God's creative speech in the world of Atzilut, for its spelling indicates all the letters of Aleph to Tav, from the first letter of the Aleph, the alphabet, to the last, while its letter Hey, numerically equivalent to 5, alludes to the 5 organs of verbal articulation, the source of the letters. Vihi Sukkah David Anofelet Ad Efer. The Shechina is identified with the Sukkah of David that has fallen down to the very dust during the time of exile. V'hamaimer Razal Galu le'edom Shechina imahem kulei. As our sages of blessed memory taught, when the Jewish people were exiled to Edom, the Shekhinah went with them, accompanying them in all their wanderings throughout this last and lowest exile of ours. The Shekhinah is thereby humbled down to the lowest depths. At a time like this, acts of tzedakah can reinvigorate it with the infinite life, and they elicit from the fountainhead of life, the Ein Sof. Ki be it arota diltata de'achayut revach shfalim dilet le beger maya kulam kalum klum it ara it raota dil ela. Tzedakah has this effect because the arousal which man initiates from below to revive the spirit of the humbled, i.e., the pauper who has nothing at all of his own, elicits an arousal from above. The quoted phrase describing the poor is advisedly borrowed from the Kabbalist description of the Shekhinah as the Sephira, viz. Malchut of Atzilut, which has nothing at all of its own, but what is given to it by others, i.e., by the higher Sephirot. The similar phrase quoted above thus highlights the fact that mortal man's charitable initiative in reviving the spirits of his poor neighbor does not merely echo or parallel the charity with which the Ein Sof revives the humbled Shekhinah, in quite literally activates it. Tzedakah then draws down life from the fountainhead of life to the Sephira of Malchut of Atzilut, which is also known as the land of life. Uveferush, Uverfrat, Vihit Nadev Am Lahachayot Yoshvei Eretz Achayim Mamash, especially when people, after voluntarily to sustain the inhabitants of the actual land of life. For Eretz Yisrael, the geographical land of life, corresponds to the heavenly land of life, viz. Malchut of Atzilut. Vadai le Mevin. This will suffice for those who understand. V'cho mishechayel al davar gadol v'nifla chaza. Now whoever is enlightened as to so great and wondrous a matter, i.e. the cosmic dynamic traced above, whereby an act of tzedakah draws down supernal life from the blessed Ein Sof to animate the exiled Shekhinah. Yematze tov ta'am v'dat kama gedolim divrei chachami zichrono levracha she'amru hakol lefi rov hamasa. Will discover and appreciate how profound are the words of the sages of blessed memory, and they said, everything is judged according to the multiplicity of action. The hainu maaseh hetzdaka hanasa befamim rabot lehemshich chayim elyonim liyachad yichud elyon pa'amim rabot. This refers to the act of charity which is performed numerous times, thereby eliciting the supreme form of life, i.e., life that derives from the infinite fountainhead of life, by repeatedly bringing about the supreme unification of Kudsha Brichu and his Shekhinah. Every act of tzedakah draws Kedusha Brichu and Ein Sof downward to his Shekhinah, down into the lower levels of this world. V'hayinu namai ka'ayin ma shekatav harambam lezachach hanefesh. This is also similar to what Maimonides Rambam wrote in praise of the repeated giving of tzedakah, to refine the soul nefesh. These words allude as well to the supreme unification is thereby affected in the worlds above. Kenoda mizohar hakadosh, the Shechina nikrat nefesh ki hi chayenu v'nafshenu. For as is known from the sacred Zohar, the Shechina is called nefesh, soul, because it is our life and our soul. V'kidichtiv v'kativ ki shachal la'afar nafshenu, as in the phrase, our soul is stooped into the dust, which alludes to the descent of the Shechina into exile. V'lachein amru razal gedola tzedaka she makrivat et hagula. And that is why our sages of blessed memory said, great is charity, for it brings the redemption near. Lehakima me'afar me'at, by raising the Shechina from the dust, by gradual stages with every act of tzedakah. Ad ki yavo Shila, until Shiloh will come, i.e., until Mashiach comes, at which time Shechina will be reinstated to